Welcome, team, to episode 36 of the Keep Going podcast. This is your co-host, Luke Wheat, coming out of Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm here with Pat O'Malley. What's going on, Pat?
I'm putting Luke right on the spot, right off the bat. Give me a professional player that wore number 36, because I do not have one.
Professional player that wore number 36. Nothing's coming to mind. I'm out on this.
It's all good, because I couldn't think of one. I think my dark horse was Schilling, but I don't know if he wore 36. So we're going to pass that one. But in all seriousness, I'm out here in Roscoe, Illinois, having a great time. Luke's got the bright shirt on. What's going on with you, bro?
I got my rugby shirt for the Australia trip earlier this summer. Brisbane Broncos. I guess that's my team because it's a dope shirt.
Love it, man. I'm telling you this. If that's not a shameless plug for the YouTube, I don't know what is.
Absolutely. Get on there, get looking, and subscribe on that YouTube, man. It's pretty cool to see it in person. I like the visual podcast, and it's been a good switch up for us.
No, I agree. And if you want to see Luke's awesome hair, awesome shirt, that's the shameless plug there. But Luke,
face made for radio, baby.
I'm about to say,
face made for radio.
Wilhite on here today. Got a shout out last week. McKenna Davidson brought the juice, my man.
Absolutely. Super good connect there. And you can tell why her and Adam are together, right? Like, two amazing people. What a power couple there. Dedicated to their mental and dedicated to just being a positive force for their communities. I loved her inspiration for being an athletic trainer, right? Yeah. Athletic trainers helped her. Somebody was committed to getting her more healthy, getting her more active, getting her feeling better. And she said, you know, I'm always going to listen to the student athlete. And that's just a powerful thing in today's world. So we're super proud of her and super grateful for her time last week.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think a reminder for our listeners and for our audience as a whole, if you're in a position where you can be somebody's role model, in a position of power where you can make an impact, don't take that for granted. Because talking to two coaches right now, I think early on in my 20s, I kind of took that for granted. But you look back in these conversations, you go, wow, there's a lot of impact to be made by someone that's looking up to you. So if you're in a position like a lot of us are being athletes and people look up to you, answer the call, answer the bell, and be an influence for sure.
Yeah. And I think, don't take those little interactions for granted, man. All the kids that I coach in high school, they come back and they're just like, we love the vibe that was there daily at practice, right? So just being a positive influence is just a massive thing for the young athletes out there.
Nope, I agree, man. And I want to shout out our socials a couple of times here because I know we've been posting daily content now. So at the KG podcast on Insta, we got Twitter, the blog, and the website going. But as a reminder, Luke, we are not specialists.
No, we're not psychiatrists. We're not psychologists. We're just a couple of ex-athletes trying to end the stigma around mental health, man. One person at a time.
Oh, man, I can't think of a better person than Jason Wilhite to kind of go through this. So, Jason, pop that camera on. We want to get rolling, my man.
Jason,
what's up, guys?
Oh,
how we doing?
Dude, living the dream.
Doing good. Perfect weather out here. Yeah, got my coffee, got my water. So
where are you coming out of right now? Where you at?
Yeah, coming from the city, from West Loop, right outside our Patagonia Fulton Market store where I work now. So yeah, I got a 10:30 shift, got here early, got the water and the coffee, and yeah, excited to have this conversation and then jump right into it right after we get off. So
yeah, Luke, you're realizing right away why I wanted to have Jason on. The guy's grinding a Sunday shift and he's meeting up with us beforehand, which I love. But we'll go into a lot of layers of Jason Wilhite here shortly. But Luke, tell me one thing you did for your mental health. Then we'll swing it over to Jason. I'll wrap up with me.
100%. So I was lucky enough to meet my newest nephew this week. So kind of getting connected with family. My brother is a pastor in the Methodist Church in the Methodist Conference up in Kentucky. And him and his family felt that they were called by higher power to adopt. And they had 2 kids already, and then they adopted a child from India, Jashwan, this summer. Man, what a blessing to our family. And what a blessing this week to be able to meet him and kind of just pour some love into him and that family this week.
Man, love that. Jason, what do you got, man?
Super cool. It's awesome, Luke.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, I was thinking about this morning while I was driving in, and I moved this week. I moved this week.
Oh,
Last weekend, I had finished a cruise with my fiance's family, so it was kind of like a back to work, back to the routine, and like shuffling a lot of different cards with moving this week. But I think like trying to be proactive with like planning ahead, trying to make sure everything was taken care of, was really helpful for me. But also being reactive, like some of the days after packing and like long day of work, I was just tired. Like phone calls to my brothers, just like taking time to rest and like turn the TV on, like not trying to do too much. So I think both a good mix of like staying on top of everything, but then just being in touch with where I was at and not trying to do too much.
I think that's great, man. I think scheduling is important. I think having a routine is important, but you know, whenever that goes awry, don't let it kill your whole day. So I love
Totally.
being able to react and adapt to the situation at hand for sure.
I
Totally.
completely. I think it's very inspiring too for our listeners that when all hits the fan, right? You have a day at work that you get in early, you leave late. You have a situation where you're moving, and goodness, I just moved myself. I moved in with my girlfriend a couple months back, and it's a lot, right? Call it what it is, it's a lot. And then for you to still make your family connections and still get your self-care time in, man, it's a long day, but you're checking off a lot of boxes, man. And I salute that.
100%. And Pat right here, man. Pat's checking a box right now. Pat, what'd you do this week for your mental health?
Oh man, I right now it's not the biking for an hour. I promise you, that's not what I did this week. But actually, believe it or not, for me this week, it was more of doing things out of my comfort zone. So that's kind of a new one, not in the sense of trying new things, but doing things that are way out there. I'm gonna walk you through. Friday night, went to go see the Barbie movie. If you haven't seen the Barbie movie
Nice.
yet, I got dragged into that one. Enjoyed it. Friday. Saturday, circled back around, went to Legoland. Had to get some Legos. Did that Saturday. And then
Yes.
today, I'm jumping on back-to-back podcasts with you guys. So might not be the normal stuff sometimes, but it's stuff that just, hey, try different things, get out there, see what fills your cup. That would be my message there.
Definitely. Definitely, man. I love that. And I think that's just it's a powerful thing. You know, going to see the Barbie movie may not be what you expect from us, but we're going to try it anyway.
Oh, you know it, bro. Hey, if you would have asked me a year ago if we'd ever run a charity 5K, I would have told you we'd never do that either. So it all goes hand in hand, right? So awesome, awesome. Well, appreciate it. And like I said, Jason, I appreciate you taking time out of your Sunday. I'm going to be conscious of it. But something I ask every week to our guests is, why are you here? And why were you such a great fit for coming on to Keep Going podcast?
For sure. Well, first of all, really appreciate you guys having me on. And again, I know I told you guys before, but really grateful to you guys for like creating the space and talking to a lot of athletes about this subject. I think for me and Luke, it's great to like officially meet you. I know we've been trading texts, but Pat
sure,
and I
man.
go back to our high school days playing together, being athletes on the field. And like the three of us all haven't worked with young people. We're all pretty young still. Right, I'm 26. But having been an athlete, having gone through school, and then also having gone to the other side of for 3 years after I graduated college, I worked with high school students in a social emotional capacity, accompanying students at St. Viator High School, and also coach baseball. And it was crazy to see during that period of time how like the needs of students had evolved significantly from the time that we were students, even though that was just a few years, and that the pandemic and social media and all these different forces kind of had really put an impact on students and left students in many ways vulnerable, I think. And so doing that work, both as an athlete to try to take care of myself, transitioning from being an athlete, which we could talk about, like being on the other side of
Yeah.
being a competitive baseball player and trying to like continue to like scratch that itch now. But especially like the stat and the thing that I would always talk about with students and coworkers when I worked with students directly was December 2021. The U.S. Surgeon General designated student mental health as an epidemic, and that was something that we saw firsthand with some of the students that we worked with, and some of the. It's not always like a crisis for students. Sometimes there's students who are in crisis or young people who are in crisis, right? But there's also a lot of students out there who are like humming along, still like hanging in there, but they're struggling, right? And so I think, yeah, like that's why I'm here. It's something that I'm passionate about. My work with young people has evolved. I still do a lot of work with young people, but less in a day-to-day sense, more so in kind of like a grassroots, like activism sense. I'm involved with a lot of like environmental work with young people, my current role, but also I'm right down the street from a train, so let me know if I gotta run anything back, if anything
No,
gets
you're
drowned
good.
out by that. But
All clear.
yeah, so that's why I'm here. It's something I'm passionate about, and I'll say too, like as an athlete, having lost a former teammate and a former coach of mine to suicide, it's a personal topic, and I know it's something that's affected our community, like for the teams and programs that I've come up in. But I know it's not just our program. I know there's been a lot of communities that have been affected not only by suicide but by like challenges to mental health in general. So I'll stop there, but definitely why I'm here.
I appreciate that, man, and I appreciate how detailed that was. I do, because there's so much good there, right? You've had the opportunity to do more in this field than we have, right? So we like bringing on guys and girls, guests that can educate our families that are listening every week. So I guess my big question off the bat for you is, being in the trenches, being in the field, especially during COVID, especially with high school kids, what did you feel like helped? What did you do with your guys and girls that you felt made a big impact on?
Yeah, I think a lot of it goes to effort, like really putting in the effort. And it helps like being a young person, right? Like working with students and like having recently been in their shoes. I think that went a long way. But a few things I think really, really making an effort to like build relationships. And one of the tools that I used was when I was in college, there's a entrepreneur who's a donut shop owner who I have a lot of love and respect for. Shout out to Jason Bachman. Shout out to Jason Bachman
Shout 'em out.
from Strange Donuts.
Yeah.
But one of his big techniques for like connecting with people and learning about them was asking 3 questions. So a good example is like asking like, hey, what'd you do this weekend? Well, I got out and I went to, meet up with my former roommate and his girlfriend for dinner. Like, oh, how do you know them? Oh, I know them from St. Louis University. We went to college together. Like, oh, like, were you in the same class? Like, how did you guys meet each other? Oh, we met each other through this program that was like a service and justice program that, we lived in the same dorm and we took a lot of the same classes together. Like, oh, that's super cool, man. So I think that's just one example, but asking 3 questions allows you to peel back a few layers to really understand, how did you engage that person in your community? How did you come into contact with them? And that teaches you a lot, not only about like the relationships you have, the hobbies that you do, but like, why do you do them? Right. Like, and so I think learning those deeper parts about students really allowed me to be able to connect with them and then maintain those relationships over time. Right. Like when I would see something that a person was passionate about or something that sparked them, I could follow up on it. Hey, how's that going? And then over time, you start to get a sense of like, is this person's energy off? Is the way they're talking about this activity
correct.
off? And then is there a way that I can like pull them aside one-on-one and being like, hey, just your energy and how you're talking about this activity or this person or this relationship, like seems to be a bit off. Like, how are things going? Like, is something going on,
Absolutely.
And I think that was a really big strategy for me to just like connect with students, keep up with students, and measure seems kind of like a like poo-poo word to use because it doesn't seem super genuine, but it was a way to kind of track like how are my students actually doing, you know?
Yeah.
So that was something that was really big for me, and I think too, like the other thing I'll say is a good friend of mine from SLU also, where I went to school. Shout out Billikens. Shout out St. Louis
You can
University.
realize Shannon, free shot.
Yeah, no free shout outs on this show,
No
right?
free shout outs, but free shout out.
but one of my friends who is pursuing her PhD in psychology and does a lot of work with young people around like counseling and mental health is a lot smarter than I am, right? So I was able to ask her some questions about like, hey, I'm working with students. What can I do? What can I be aware of? And she was saying that one of the best things is for every young person to feel like they have a connection with one adult outside of their family, right?
Love.
And so recognizing that like maybe I'm that adult, in many cases I'm not that adult, right? And so if I notice that the student's energy is off, like how can I tap another adult who I know has that connection with that student to be like, hey, I saw that this student's energy was off. They seemed like they were kind of struggling with something. You know, maybe I'm not the person that they want to talk to, but you might want to go check in with them or make an effort to, you know, to see how they're doing so that you could maybe be the person that would like breach into their, like, you know, their zone where they're feeling safe to share and they know that they could confide in you. So I think those were the two biggest things that I would try to practice week to week and just make an effort to stay on top of doing everything I could to support students.
Absolutely.
Luke,
It takes a village, man.
Oh, you have something here.
It takes a village, man. It takes a village. And I think we're in a unique position as, you know, younger people that are working with young people, right? We're in our late 20s. So high schoolers and especially that age are pretty influenced by people at our age, the 26 to 27. They can kind of vibe a little bit more with us, right? And asking 3 questions is such a great tip, right? If you don't know where to start there. But building those relationships every day is going to make a crazy impact on a kid's life. They're going to feel more comfortable coming to you and asking for help if you build that relationship with them. Man, what a powerful thing to do. I see that every day with our high school kids, right? After about the first 2 weeks of class, we have a super great relationship because I've got smaller classroom sizes right now, 15 to 20.
Nice.
It's an amazing thing. After 2 weeks of class, you know, we're bros. You know, I'm teaching them Spanish and I'm in that position of power, but I try not to act like that. I try to act like we're friends and we're all here to learn together, and build that growth mindset. And so after about 2 or 3 weeks, you know, they're saying it's like, hey man, been having this situation with my friend. Like, I don't really know what's going on, and I can kind of advise them in that direction, or and maybe it's something with their family, and I may not know what to tell them, but I know the resources to point them to get them in the right direction, and it takes a village for sure.
Yeah, I could have a podcast episode about what you just said there. Like in our 30 plus episodes, this is one of my favorite things I've ever heard. And the reason I love it so much is it's simple, but it's not easy. It's putting your ego aside. It's understanding that we're about connections and love is the strongest thing that we do, and making sure that they know, hey, if I can't help you, I'm going to get you in touch with someone that can. That's love right there. And that's putting your ego aside and caring about the person across from you. I couldn't love that more. And that's something that I hope our listeners realize. Run that last couple minutes back and realize how important it is to invest in your relationships. Now it's all making sense, Jason. So now you're working a job. You're about to start your shift here on a Sunday in a little bit here. How are you bringing that method into your job now? And two, tell the people about what you're doing now and how you're making an impact there, because you went from a huge impact position. I can only imagine what you're doing now.
For sure. Yeah. So really quick, and that's a good question. One more thing that I do want to hit on really quick that I thought of while Luke was talking.
Yeah,
was,
go ahead.
was something that also I found to be really powerful is oftentimes when working with young people, when working with teammates or, with student athletes, whatever the case may be, it can feel powerless to try to accompany or assist someone who's going through something, right? And in 99% of cases, like, we can never necessarily fix what someone else is going through, like you wish that you could do something more to try to like take the clouds hanging over somebody away or like, change the circumstances to make sure that they can get better or, their circumstances can get better. But sometimes for me, if I found myself in one of those powerless situations where like, I really feel like there's not much that I can do to change things, it felt like, or my experience was, the best 3 words that I could use responding to someone who had shared something, who was vulnerable, was "it sounds like." And I'll give an example, like, and the strategy there is like you're just active listening, kind of honoring and giving space to what they shared or what they experienced. But like, for example, Luke, it sounds like for you, those first 2 weeks of the school year are some of the most critical in terms of building those relationships and getting off on the right foot with your students, so that as the year progresses, those relationships can really deepen. Your students can feel safe talking with you and really kind of like not only being casual and hanging out, but also come to you if there is really something going on with them. And so that's just one example. I flipped that, but sometimes all someone needs is to be seen, right? And they don't necessarily need someone to fix their circumstances, but to see them in their circumstances, right? And to be in their circumstances with them. And so I think that's really critical. And it's something that, again, it doesn't, oftentimes it can feel powerless, and that's a hard thing accompanying someone who's going through something, but active listening and just starting with "it sounds like" and recognizing that you see them can make a huge impact.
These tips, man, these are, I'm writing all these down, man. I'm writing all these down. That's a classroom skill too. I can use that in the classroom 100%.
Right.
Totally.
Listening and love go hand. And I think we all can become victim at times to sending a forced trigger response because you're not listening to what the other person is saying. You're just waiting to respond. I think that active listening piece and loving listening, oh man, I'm beaming right now. And I'm sweating, but I'm feeling great. Like, it's incredible. Jay,
yeah, we're not.
Go ahead.
We're not sure if that's the smile or if that's the sweat beating up after
hour
plus on the bike. Yeah, our guy is out here.
Ear to ear right now. Man, I'm loving this. Okay, so roll with the last question. What you're doing now, our listeners, what you're doing now and how you're making an impact now, more importantly.
Totally. So, so going back, again, so my story's kind of back and forth, and I'll share a little bit about my background just to kind of help. I think it's really important for any young people listening to this podcast, and you guys have talked about it before, that it's okay to change directions. One of my best friends, his family has a mantra, like, you have permission to change. And I think that's really important for any person to continue to like, know it's good to like change directions in the direction of where you feel called. And for me, I studied business at SLU. I was a business major. I've always been passionate about social impact, always been passionate about community and young people. And even though I was a business major, I wanted to start my career working with high school students. Again, I did that for 3 years, loved it. And while working with high school students, the number 1 and 2 things that I heard about the most were concerns about student mental health from students, recognizing that like not just with one individual, but like across like the population, there were problems that they wanted to see addressed. And 2, a lot of students were really passionate about climate and like environmental problems. And so a lot of my work centered on those 2 things with students when I was working at the school. But over time, having been in the role of like planning some programming to get students out and learn about different things that were going on with the environment, eventually that was something that kind of pushed me to become more passionate about that issue. And and to kind of take more seriously like my role and trying to affect change around that. And so I left the school. It was a really difficult decision. I decided to leave to pursue work kind of on the front lines, so to speak, where I could kind of be more involved. And it was hard. And we could talk about that too. It was a really difficult journey. And the background of it as well was in January of that last year, when I was working with students, my mom was diagnosed with lung cancer. And so that period of time kind of allowed me to spend more time with her, you know, kind of be like really present to the needs of my family, but also to kind of like continue to try to progress. And so I eventually landed a job at Patagonia. For anyone who's familiar, Patagonia's mission is we're in business to save our home planet. So, you know, at a local level here in Chicago, we do a lot of work to try to address like local community needs, local environmental campaigns, grassroots nonprofits who are doing the work. And so I worked as a customer experience guide for a few months in the store. And then recently I started a position as the activism team lead. So my role kind of involves a lot of interface with local nonprofits. I help support our Patagonia Fulton Market team, just with our like day-to-day operations and whatnot. But a lot of my work also centers on young people and continuing to try to support young people who are passionate about environmental issues. And a good example is for the last 2 years, I've been involved with organizing a youth climate summit. So we've had students from around the Chicago area come for this like day-long conference, kind of looking at like what problems are going on and how can students take concrete steps to try to address them. And additionally, one of my former students, and this one means a lot, and Luke, I know you haven't worked with high school students, you can resonate, but I just worked with one of my former students who's going to be a freshman this coming fall, but she reached out and wanted to apply to lead a breakout session at this national, like high school and college Jesuit conference. And so her and I put in a joint application to like collaborate on this breakout session about environmental issues. And so it's really cool. Like one of the things that I really want to continue to do is like, obviously my work has evolved and the community I'm directly working with has evolved, but I'm really focused on continuing to collaborate with former students and young people in general to try to address some of the problems that are going on. So in many ways, the work I'm doing is built off of the work that I did with students. And like, had I not done that work with students and had I not engaged in those conversations and learned a lot from my students, I wouldn't be doing the work that I'm doing today. So, you know, I owe a lot of the clarity and direction and purpose that I feel right now to a lot of the students who helped me get to where I'm at. So I'll stop there, but that's where I'm at.
Those things where you pour into the students, but they pour just as much back into you, right? Totally. And I think I've been teaching, this will be my third or fourth year. And my first year I was juniors and seniors, so they're about to graduate college. And
right,
reaching back out and saying, man, I'm about to do this super cool thing, or I'm about to start this business, or I'm going to go work here. And like you said, that girl reaching out and about to lead a summit, right? Like, that's unbelievable. And she's making a profound impact. And that just fires me up, right, to work even harder. So they pour just as much into you as you do into them.
Totally. Agreed. And what comes to mind right away when I listen, because Jace, I obviously have known you, man, like for a long time now. It just screams servant leadership. It does. And not only from a give back standpoint, but also having now the financial freedom to not only fill your cup, but fill up a bunch more. So I think, one, that's super powerful. And two, you're truly right where you should be. Do you believe that?
It's, you know, it's interesting, like a year ago, right? Like last July, when I was applying to jobs and when I was in like the kind of the grind mode of like trying to figure things out, if you would have told me that I'd be here a year later, like that would have been kind of my dream job, right? But it's interesting. There's a dynamic, and I've heard other people talk about it too, where like sometimes when you like accomplish a goal or you get to a place you've been working towards, you feel like it's going to be this like amazing, sensational feeling, and you arrive, and it doesn't necessarily feel always like you thought it would feel, right? And there's like a mindset there that you can, like, I always focus on gratitude. I always focus on like making the most of the opportunities I'm given. But I think honestly, there is a dynamic sometimes where like it doesn't always feel like you expected, and that can kind of trip you up or throw you off. But I am truly really grateful to be here, and I also think that's a symptom of the goalpost moving to a degree as well. Like when you accomplish one goal, the goalpost can move downfield, and you just try to, and that's why I love the name of your podcast, and I know I've been hyping you guys up from the start. Pat's been catching me in his DMs from episode 1, being like, man, I'm so excited. But the keep going mantra, I feel like is something that really resonates with me. So
Yeah, Luke, I think our listeners are going to get super sick of me saying this one, but like, it's the mountain. It's the mountains. It's why the mountains is in our logo. It's because everyone always thinks when they get to the top of the mountain that they're going to look around and it's going to be perfect from then on out. Then you look across and there's another mountain. There's another thing that we got to climb. There's another challenge to face mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally, whatever it may be. So I love the keep going mantra, because it's the name of our pod. But I love the way you just described that, where this was your perfect job. Like if you were to script it like a movie, it would be here, and it still has ups and downs. It still has triumphs and trials and all the stuff that go into it. I gotta stop saying it on this episode, but run that back too. I love how you just described that. Luke, go ahead.
You got to run it back. Because there's a lot of good stuff here, and there was 3 or 4 things I want to touch on, and we may have to have you back on just to talk about them.
I'm loving this. I am absolutely loving this, but I have to be conscious of your time because I know you have other things to do today. Tell me your keep going moment. And if we went over it already, it's okay. I know there's a lot of good content, but tell me and tell our listeners.
Yeah, I think so I've been thinking about this ever since the beginning when you guys asked this question, and I was like, man, I don't know if I can pinpoint one moment. And the truth is there's a lot of moments, there's a lot of moments and a lot of people and relationships and activities and things that kind of have allowed me to keep going, have allowed me to keep pushing. I think one that really stands out is, and I know this is an athlete's podcast. I know this is like a, focus on like sports and like that world. But for me, this last year was really focused on this transition from working with students for like full time to trying to like affect more impact and change on environmental issues. And again, that transition was hard, but something that sticks out to me is when I first began at Patagonia, like when I first found out that I got the job in the fall, I was actually visiting my mom in the hospital, and I was there with her. And for anyone who's had a loved one who's like gone through health conditions like that, that it can be a really up and down, back and forth journey, and keeping up with a lot of the details and a lot of the, what was the latest doctor visit, and, what were the details that were going on? What can I become most aware of now? It's kind of hard to keep up with, right? There's a lot of changes and things that occur, but I was visiting my mom in the hospital, and I was trying to catch up from her on like, hey, what's the latest? What's going on? And she was like, yeah, like, this is that period. Tell me about what's going on with you. And she was really focused on like, tell me about this new job. Tell me about what's going on at Patagonia. And I can't wait to hear all about it. And she was reasonably weak at the time, but we were able to do 2 laps around her hospital floor that she was on. And she was just eating up like everything that I was telling her about this new position and what I was going to be doing. And so that's something that like really, really was a powerful moment for me this last year. And anyone who's gone through a big transition knows it can be really hard, and there's a lot of ups and downs. But for my mom to kind of like be so focused on me with where I'm going and kind of celebrating this milestone that I'd been working toward. And um, sometimes one of the most powerful things is someone who just really believes in you, believes
Yeah.
in you in the high points and in the low points. And so for her to like express that support and love at a time where she was really going through it was one of my most powerful moments, and something that sent me back out and like put a lot of purpose back into me going through the rest of the year. It's one of those moments you come back to, when things are hard and you have your ups and downs, but I just think back to her being in my corner and like, you know, those unapologetic supporters, sometimes
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes like those are the people that can have the biggest impact, especially when like I said, you're going through a transition and it can be hard. So that's my keep going moment is thinking back to that time with her, and I'll always remember that moment for sure.
You're it's getting dusty in here now. You're your mom's son, at the end of the day. And I think what hit home with me there was just needing someone to believe in you. Sometimes it's just that simple. I think that was I'm at a loss for words. Luke.
Yeah, I can kind of sympathize with you there, man. My dad was diagnosed with very early stage of prostate cancer. He's good. Very thankful for the stage he's at and how much he doesn't have to do. It's a tough thing to talk about.
Totally.
He still cares about what I'm doing. He still tells me he's super proud of me. Dude, it's crazy. Like, and I think it helps them get through it. You being there for them and being something they can focus on helps them get through it. So you're doing just as much for your mom as she's doing for you, and
Totally.
that's a really powerful thing. I'm kind of tearing up right now, but
Totally.
it's amazing. Yeah.
No.
Totally.
Hey,
Yeah.
and this already, Jace. I know there's a lot of people in your circle, man. Just know that, like, we got you no matter what. I know everything that's been going on, man, and I know she's proud of you, bro.
Thank you, man. Thank you. No, I appreciate that, and much love, and Luke, sending a lot of love your way, and to your family with everything that's going on with your dad, and Pat. I've always from a third party really just been amazed by the relationship that you guys have with your mom. I know she's been a huge figure in your life and someone who has been a major supporter to you guys, and so yeah, just like family's so important, and those moments are important. Like no one can ever take them away from you, and so appreciate you guys.
I love you, brother. There's so many great nuggets here. I'm absolutely loving every second. I've said it from the jump here, but I do want to be conscious of Jason's time. Like Luke said, we might have to have you back in the future. I think that'd be amazing.
I know. Lots of unpack.
In the meantime, there's more impact to be made here. We say it every week. We love what we do. Me and Luke are great, but like it's all about the guests. 100%. Tell our guests or tell our listeners as a guest where they can find you on socials and how they get in touch with you.
Totally. Socials, my Instagram is JAY_WIL2. Feel free to reach out. And this is an important topic, and it's something that, I always want to be supportive as best I can for folks. So like, please reach out, anyone who wants to talk. And the last thing I'll say really quick, I want to be mindful of your guys' time too.
Oh, brother, you get your flowers now. This is the last question. It's talk to our audience about something that you haven't talked about yet. This is your flowers moment. This is your FaceTime. Crush it.
Appreciate it. I just want to say really quick, and I think this isn't something that gets talked about a lot. And Luke and Pat, you've gone through this in your own way, but being a competitive athlete and transitioning to a life after being a competitive athlete is really hard. And I think for a lot of people, you kind of lose that routine and you lose that community and that like accountability structure to staying on top of your workouts and staying healthy. And you go from having an accountability structure around you to like, and working out to compete, working out to try to win, to like exercising to be healthy. And there's a big like mental transition that takes place in that timeline. And you guys have talked about it in past podcasts about like how trying new things and trying like yoga or, different exercises that maybe weren't a part of your like athlete timeline, how that's so important to keeping going with your health and not only being physically healthy, but how exercise can benefit your mental health as well. So I just want to recommend to anyone that if you are curious about climbing as a sport, I definitely recommend getting involved.
Yes.
And I think for me, it was interesting being kind of lost for a few years after I finished playing baseball. I played a lot of competitive like 5-on-5 basketball at SLU. There's a group that always ran like 4 to 6 any day you show up at the gym. So if anyone has a good fives like environment where I can jump into Chicago, please slide in my DMs and let me know where I can play some basketball. But
I wish I could help you there. It's not going to be me.
It's all right. But climbing, I think, is a sport that's really individual, that is like really unique and interesting, and that I've developed a passion for after baseball. And so, but also wanting to name that that's a hard transition. So if there's other athletes who are going through it, or even for athletes who are still in your sport and that time is impending, know that there's other people out there who've gone through it, and that community can be a really good resource for like getting you into a new sport and trying something out to keep you going. So, so just want to name that dynamic and say that, if you haven't tried it, climbing could potentially be that sport that, that you latch onto after your, former sport has run its course.
Yeah, climbing's dope. It's something that I get into with my buddies sometimes, so it's fun.
No, love that. Jason, man, I've been super impacted. I know Luke has. I know our listeners will as well. And man, I'm happy for you, man. It's nice to see you going through everything that you've gone through as an athlete, as a coach, as a role model, a servant leader, and an activist, man. It's awesome to have you on here and share your story, bro. And I couldn't be more appreciative. Keep doing what you're doing. And above all else, keep going, my brother.
Yes, sir. Keep going.
Appreciate you guys. Like I said, really grateful for this space, and you guys as well. Keep going. And I love these episodes, man. I love listening to all the folks that you bring in. And shout out Casey Hintz. I listened to the episode when he came in and talked. But yeah, it was awesome to hear Casey as a former student that I've worked with. So yeah, keep going, guys. And this pod is really important.
No, love you, brother. Hopefully you see you in the city real soon, and work hard today, but don't work too hard, all right?
Yeah, much love, guys, and good luck with the school year incoming, Luke.
Sir, appreciate you. We're ready for it. We're taking it on.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, brother.
Right, guys. Take care.
Soon. See ya.
Talk soon.
Luke, I'm gonna tell you right now. Whew.
Yeah, dude. Come on.
That was absolutely fantastic.
Absolutely. Anytime you're about to tear up on an episode, you're going to make an impact. You know that people are going to listen to that and be fired up, and just know that, it's going to get them through their struggles for the week for sure.
Oh man, to be candid with everybody, at one point I was tearing up, sweating, I got to pee. So there's a lot going on here.
1, 2, that's the trifecta right there.
That's it, Luke. I know you just ran as well. I'm going to have you crush this ad read, bro. Go ahead.
Yeah, 100%. I got you. Shout out to Community Company. There's somebody that we wanted to partner with because of the positive impact that they make on their community. Matt just uploaded a video of them doing a community event out in Tennessee, and man, what a space that they provide for people to pour into one another. It's a skateboarding kind of base whenever they do community events, and man, shout them out and go check them out because they deserve your support.
Yeah, I think Matt Roberts is the staple of why we do what we do, right? His whole crew. It's just the impact, and that goes for all of our sponsors, Power Pipe, Homegrown Design. It's just incredible the give back with all the people that we associate with. And that's why we keep going. We're only as strong as our group. We're only as strong as our army. So love it, man.
And a little look forward to August. Matt Roberts is going to be coming on the podcast. So that's exciting, man.
Hey, it's all exciting stuff. Season 2, got to shout out the engagement post we threw up on Friday. Y'all responded. Like, I didn't know there was so many great people that were just floating around our circle that we didn't know, but that's the power of something like that. But Luke, with that in mind, let's switch it over to the social media shout out of the week.
Yeah. So our social media shout out is Personal Corner. And it was an article about pushing through the pain. This is kind of an interesting topic in the mental health space, and we just got off another guest appearance with the athletic school, talking about athletes soft nowadays. You know, that's kind of a stigma that athletes get now. It's like, oh, it's different than it was in the past. Well, you know, there's a lot of things that people go through. May not have addressed. So there's kind of 5 different steps to pushing through the pain, right? And it can be a positive thing. So first, you got to acknowledge that you're going through something. Acknowledge that you're struggling. Acknowledge that you need help. The second thing is ask for help. And that can definitely be like the hardest part of this. Asking and being vulnerable and being candid is going to be the hardest part, but you can do it. After you acknowledge that you're going through something, asking for the help is going to get you on the right side. The third step is kind of finding a passion or a hobby, right? Kind of like Jason was talking about with climbing, moving from a competitive sport into a world of business, into teaching. You know, there may not be as much motivation to get active. Find that passion and find that hobby, experiment with it. Me and Pat talk about that all the time. 4, ask questions. So ask your friends how they're doing. Get a therapist, talk to them weekly, you know, talk to them bi-weekly. It really helped me in the past. It was a super beneficial thing. And 5, just know that you're human, right? Just be human. You know, you're going to make mistakes, accept it. Try not to make the same ones over and over again. But if you do, just try and be better the next time. That's all you can do, man.
Luke, I couldn't have said it better, man. That's a fantastic, not only breakdown of that, but an understanding that we're not alone in this. And we say it a lot of our episodes, like, talk to your people, get in the mix with people that care about you. And if you need help getting pointed in the right direction, you got 2 guys that can definitely get you in the right hands. That's for sure. So shout out Bryce Carlson as well for mental corner stuff and everything that we just touched on. Unreal stuff there. I want to switch over to the charity shout out of the week. Gotta shout out my girl, Sammie Hot Wheels out at Cabrini. Sammie, if you haven't heard about Sammie already, it is sweeping the nation. She's out there raising money for her wheelchair to be able to be Sammie Hot Wheels. So if you have not supported her already, we're going to put that link in the GoFundMe. Sammie is an inspiration not only for hoopers everywhere, but everyone out here in the athlete community. So shout out Sammie. We'll get to the GoFundMe and support a fantastic cause. That's for sure.
100%, man. I think that's the perfect charity for this week. If you can pour your love into anybody, pour it into Sammie this week. You know, that's an amazing charity to help out.
Nope, I agree. Especially the hoopers we've had on here. Definitely cool to see. Lastly, Luke, I want to chop in the Luke Wheat mailbag of the week, and we'll wrap us up on this fine Sunday. So the question today, what are the solutions to helping kids in the space of mental health?
There's 2 big solutions that I think I read about this week that people smarter than me are going to help you out. You know, we're not psychiatrists, we're not psychologists, but there was a couple doctors that responded to this in the space of mental health that I love their answers. The first one is get your kids involved in the community, right? Get them out playing sports, get them involved in different aspects of the community and get them around people and other kids of their age. It's just massive. I think Jason touched on COVID today, and that was a big part of why a lot of people struggle was they didn't have a community to turn to. And second off, you know, if you're an adult and if you're a coach, we talked about this last week, I think, or maybe 2 weeks ago. Implement system of mental health support for your students. If you're an adult, talk to your athletic director, talk to your director of sports. I'm trying to think of the word, director of operations for your club team or for your travel ball team, right? And get a tiered system in place of, okay, if a kid's struggling, this is the first step, the second step, and this is the third step we're going to go through to get this kid back to where they need to be mentally.
Yeah, I love Jason's connection piece and making the effort piece. It was so well put, and like I said earlier, run that 30 seconds to a minute back of him talking about the connection piece with people and how much that matters. If you can make a connection or a little gesture or understand early on that the other people that you're working with or the other person you're working with trust you, man, is that a fantastic thing.
100%. Man, we appreciate Jason today, and Pat, I appreciate you this morning, man.
Hey, man, it's a grind out here, but it's a grind that we couldn't be more blessed to have this platform. I say it a lot of the times, like we're inspired by the guests and the listeners and everyone we interact with. So let's keep that going. And Luke, man, above else, man, let's keep going, brother.
Keep going. Love you, buddy.
Love you, bro. Peace.